In the meantime, though, Zimbabwe's economy is in dire need of a revamp. For more on that, earlier we spoke to Rishon Chimboza. He's the head of East Africa at Africa Practice, a strategic communications and policy advocacy expert. We asked, what should the next president of Zimbabwe be focusing on when it comes to the economic revival?
If we're looking at FDI in Zimbabwe in 2016, only about 300 million came into the country. If you compare this to Mozambique, it attracted about $3 billion in FDI in the same period. Granted, Mozambique has a pretty strong hydrocarbon-driven economy, but Zimbabwe has proven mining reserves, has a very strong mining sector and has the capability to attract that type of FDI. So you can clearly see that Zimbabwe is lagging behind its peers. So number two, bringing the FDI in. Then number three is increasing engagement with international partners. So during the days of the unity government, we saw Zimbabwe getting reinstated its voting rights at the IMF. So this is a step within the right direction. However, I think the unfortunate incidences of the past few days could bring doubt upon the willingness of development partners to engage. But ultimately, they will be critical in providing that sort of credibility and endorsement to get the FDI flowing in again. So if we were to just revisit those three options again, we would look at reducing the wage bill for civil servants. That will be the priority area to start with. And of course, I mean, it's not going to be plain sailing. It's not. Because as we could see, the result of this election, although it has not been finalized, is bitterly contested. And when the result does come out, there's going to be a lot of work to try and re-engage the public of Zimbabwe, firstly in gaining their trust, and secondly as well, just reinforcing and also just convincing the international partners that Zimbabwe is indeed ready to engage again with the international community. So I would say number one is looking at where is the money flowing, right? So ultimately, because of the way the Zimbabwean economy is structured and the opportunities that exist predominantly within the mining sector and its ability to absorb foreign direct investment, we're going to see a lot of the investment going into that sector. But then again, we also have to look at the multiplier effect of investment within mining and how long it will trickle down to the rest of the economy. So within mining itself, I mean, we shouldn't also forget that it's not only driven by FDI, but also driven by domestic mining, predominantly gold mining. So within gold mining within Zimbabwe, we're looking at about 40% of the output being produced by small-scale domestic miners. So how can these miners be incentivized to produce more? Then when we're looking at the large-scale miners, how could we put in place frameworks that will then stimulate more exploration spend? So for example, the last large-scale discovery made in Zimbabwe was in 1984, and this was Freda Rebecca mine. And there is opportunity to discover more of these resources. And again, lithium, or rather the battery minerals, are something that's quite in vogue at the moment. So Zimbabwe, again, can target investment into these sorts of areas. So again, if we're looking at the multiplier effect, for it to be felt within the rest of the economy, it'll take a while. But there are quick wins within the mining sector, predominantly in gold and small-scale mining. And then again, we could look at, if we look at the agriculture sector again, just after the unity government was formed, there was a lot of excitement in terms of contract farming, looking at international markets, etc. But one challenge that a lot of the financing institutions were facing was collateralization of those loans and the issue of title deeds for the farms, for the land that was offered to the resettled farmers. And recently, within the Ministry of Finance has put in place legislation to give out these 99-year leases and working very closely with the financial sector to be able to collateralize these loans using these title deeds. So again, this could be another channel to be able to attract more capital into the agriculture sector, and again for the country to start seeing much quicker recovery within agriculture, because at the moment less than 30% of Zimbabwe's arable land is actually cultivated. And within a season, you can start to see real cash flowing into the pockets of ordinary Zimbabweans.